I'm Anna, 29 years old, and I've been married to David, who's 32, for 5 years now. We met during our college days when I was a sophomore and he was a senior. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love for astronomy and nature hikes. After dating for 3 years, we decided to tie the knot in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Our marriage was generally happy and stable. We both had steady jobs. I worked as a marketing coordinator for a local firm, while David was a software developer at a tech startup. We had our disagreements like any couple, but we always managed to work through them with open communication and mutual respect. David's younger sister, Jessica, who's 26, has been a part of our lives since the beginning. She was always around during our dating years, and I initially thought her presence was sweet. Jessica had a tough childhood. Their parents divorced when she was young, and she struggled with anxiety and depression throughout her teenage years. David took on a protective role, often acting more like a parent than a brother. As time went on, I noticed that Jessica had difficulty maintaining steady employment. She would get jobs but lose them within a few months, often due to conflicts with coworkers or tardiness. David and I found ourselves helping her financially more times than I can count. At first, I was okay with it, understanding the importance of family support. However, as it became a pattern, I started to feel uncomfortable with the frequency of her requests. Everything was going relatively well until a few months ago. David and I had just welcomed our daughter, Sophie, into the world. She was barely 3 months old when Jessica approached us for another loan. This time, it was for her rent. Normally, I might have considered it, but I was on maternity leave, and our finances were tighter than usual. David's job was just covering our essential expenses, and we were being careful with our spending. I explained to David that we couldn't afford to help Jessica this time. He agreed, albeit reluctantly. When we broke the news to Jessica, she didn't take it well at all. She burst into tears, accusing me of never liking her and trying to turn David against her. I was taken aback by her reaction, but David surprised me by standing firm with our decision. After that incident, things began to change. Jessica started visiting our house more frequently, often showing up unannounced. She would linger around David when I wasn't in the room, and her behavior towards me became cold and distant. Occasionally, she would make snide comments about how lucky I was to have David. At first, I thought she was just trying to guilt-trip us about the money, but as time went on, I sensed there was more to it. A couple of weeks passed, and I noticed David becoming increasingly distant. He started spending more time at work or with Jessica, and when we were together, he would make cryptic comments like, "Maybe I don't know you as well as I thought," or "There are things I'm not sure about it anymore." I was confused and hurt by his behavior. One night, I decided to confront him about it. That's when he dropped a bombshell. Jessica had apparently shown him proof that I was hiding something from him, specifically an affair. I was completely blindsided. I hadn't done anything even remotely inappropriate, let alone have an affair. When I pressed him for details, David explained that Jessica had found messages on my social media from an old high school friend named Paul. Apparently, she had accessed my phone when I left it unattended during one of her visits. I was shocked that he was taking this seriously. The truth was, Paul and I had reconnected over social media a few months ago, but our conversations were entirely innocent. We had caught up on each other's lives, shared a few old memories, and that was it. I hadn't even seen Paul in person since high school graduation. I immediately showed David the full conversation thread, hoping to clear things up. However, he still wasn't convinced. He said Jessica had heard rumors from someone that I had been meeting up with Paul behind his back. I was furious that he would even consider such a ridiculous accusation, especially coming from Jessica, who had clear issues with me. Our argument escalated, and I told David that if he trusted Jessica's baseless accusations over my word, there was no point in continuing the conversation. That's when he suggested a separation. I was stunned. After 5 years of marriage and everything we had been through together, he was ready to throw it all away based on his sister's manipulations. The next day, I packed up my things and left with Sophie. I couldn't believe that my husband would choose to believe a baseless accusation over my word. As I drove away, I saw Jessica's car in our driveway. It was clear she was moving in to support David during this time. I moved in with my parents, trying to process what had happened and figure out my next steps. I was hurt, angry, and confused. How could David, the man I thought I knew so well, turn on me so quickly? And how could Jessica, someone I had tried to support and welcome into our family, betray me like this? As I settled into my parents' guest room with Sophie, I couldn't help but reflect on the past few years. There were signs I had missed: Jessica's increasing dependency on us, her subtle attempts to drive a wedge between David and me, the way she always seemed to need his attention. I had brushed these things off, thinking I was just being paranoid or overly sensitive. Now, I wished I had paid more attention. My parents were supportive but shocked. They had always liked David and couldn't understand his sudden change in behavior. They encouraged me to fight for my marriage, but I wasn't sure if there was anything left to fight for. If David could so easily believe the worst about me, what did that say about our relationship? Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since I moved out, and the situation has only gotten worse. I honestly thought David would come to his senses by now, but instead, things have escalated beyond my worst fears. From what I've heard through mutual friends, Jessica has fully moved into our house. She's taken on the role of the supportive sister, making sure David is okay while simultaneously painting me as the villain in this story. She's been telling everyone who will listen that I left David because I felt guilty about my alleged affair and that I was running away from my responsibilities as a wife and mother. I couldn't believe the audacity of her lies. What's even more shocking is that David hasn't reached out to me once in these 2 weeks. The only communication I've had from him was through his lawyer. He's officially filed for divorce, citing infidelity and emotional abuse as the reasons. I was stunned when I received the papers. How could he accuse me of emotional abuse when I've done nothing but support him throughout our marriage? I tried contacting David multiple times to explain again, hoping that some time apart might have cleared his head. But he won't answer my calls or respond to my texts. It's like he's completely shut me out of his life. What's worse is that Jessica has apparently been digging into my past to find more evidence of my supposed infidelity. She found old photos of me and Paul from high school and showed them to David as proof of our long-standing relationship. These photos are from over a decade ago, from a time when Paul and I were just classmates and nothing more. The fact that she's using innocent memories from my past to manipulate David makes me furious. To add insult to injury, David is now pushing for sole custody of Sophie. He's claiming that I'm an unfit mother due to my affair, using Jessica's fabricated evidence to support his case. I never thought he would go this far, especially knowing how much I love our daughter. The idea of losing Sophie is unbearable. I'm at a loss for what to do next. I don't have the financial resources to take him to court right now, especially with me being on maternity leave. My savings are dwindling, and the thought of a prolonged legal battle terrifies me. I feel trapped and powerless. My parents have been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. They've known David for years and never imagined he would do something like this. They're just as shocked and disappointed as I am. They've been urging me to get a lawyer and fight back, offering to help with the legal fees if necessary. But even with their support, I don't know if I have the strength to go through this. I've been trying to focus on taking care of Sophie and maintaining some semblance of normalcy for her sake. But it's hard when my whole world feels like it's falling apart. Every time I look at her, I see David's eyes and it breaks my heart all over again. I've reached out to some of our mutual friends, hoping they might be able to talk some sense into David. But most of them seem to be caught in the middle, not wanting to take sides. A few have privately expressed their support for me, but they're hesitant to get involved directly. It's made me realize how isolating this whole situation is. As the days go by, I find myself alternating between anger and despair. One moment, I want to fight with everything I have to clear my name and keep my daughter. The next, I feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the situation and want to give up. I never thought my marriage would end like this, especially over lies and manipulation. I've started seeing a therapist to help me cope with the stress and emotional turmoil. It's helping a little, but there's still a long way to go. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on being the best mother I can be to Sophie, and trying to gather the strength to face whatever comes next. Update 2, last week, I finally decided to confront Jessica directly. I couldn't let her continue destroying my life without standing up for myself. I waited for a day when I knew David would be at work and went over to the house. When Jessica answered the door, she had her usual smug look on her face. I told her I knew what she was doing and that she needed to stop lying to David. To my surprise, Jessica didn't deny anything. In fact, she admitted to fabricating the whole story about my affair. She said she did it because she was tired of me always being the perfect wife and wanted David all to herself. She felt that I had taken David away from her, and she didn't want to lose her best friend. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. She admitted that she had feelings for David that went beyond sisterly affection. I had suspected that Jessica's attachment to David was unhealthy, but hearing her confess to romantic feelings for her own brother was shocking. It explained so much about her behavior over the years, her constant need for David's attention, her resentment towards me, and her extreme reaction when we couldn't give her money. Knowing this might be my only chance to clear my name, I had recorded the entire conversation on my phone. I thought that finally having proof of Jessica's lies would be the key to making David see the truth. Later that evening, I went back to the house when I knew David would be home and played the recording for him. As he listened to Jessica's confession, David was silent. I thought that maybe this would be the moment he finally saw the truth, but I was wrong. Instead of acknowledging Jessica's manipulation, he turned on me again. He accused me of manipulating Jessica into making a false confession and said he didn't believe anything she said in the recording. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like I was living in some bizarre alternate reality where nothing I did or said mattered. No matter what evidence I presented, David refused to see the truth. He was completely under Jessica's control, and nothing I could do seemed capable of breaking that hold. Realizing that there was no way to reason with David, I left the house feeling defeated. It was clear that my marriage was truly over, not because of any wrongdoing on my part, but because of David's inability to see the truth. The next day, I officially hired a lawyer to fight for custody of Sophie. I'm terrified of what might happen, but I know I have to do everything in my power to protect my daughter. My lawyer has assured me that we have a strong case, especially with the recording of Jessica's confession, but I'm still worried. David has more financial resources than I do, and I'm afraid he might try to use that advantage against me. As I prepare for the legal battle ahead, I can't help but wonder how things got to this point. How did the man I loved and trusted become so blinded by his sister's lies? And how did I miss the signs of Jessica's unhealthy attachment for so long? Update 3, the divorce is almost finalized now, and it's been a difficult journey. David is still fighting for sole custody of Sophie, but my lawyer has been working tirelessly to gather evidence to prove that I'm a fit mother. The recording of Jessica's confession has been crucial in building our case. I haven't spoken to David directly since the confrontation with Jessica. All communication has been through our lawyers. Honestly, I don't think I ever want to speak to him again. The trust between us has been completely shattered, and I don't see any way to rebuild it. About a month ago, Jessica moved out of the house. I heard through mutual friends that David finally started to see through some of her lies. Apparently, she slipped up and contradicted herself one too many times, and even David couldn't ignore it anymore. However, by then, the damage was already done. Despite realizing Jessica's manipulation, David is still pushing forward with the divorce. It's clear that there's no chance of reconciliation between us. I've made the decision to go no contact with both David and Jessica after the divorce is finalized. It's been emotionally exhausting dealing with their toxic behavior, and I refuse to let them ruin my life any further. I need to focus on healing and building a new life for myself and Sophie. The custody battle is ongoing, but my lawyer is optimistic. We've presented evidence of my capabilities as a mother, including testimonies from friends and family. The recording of Jessica's confession has also helped to discredit many of David's claims about my character. I've started looking for a new job, knowing that I'll need to support myself and Sophie once everything is settled. It's scary to think about starting over, but I'm also feeling a sense of relief. For the first time in months, I feel like I'm taking control of my life again. My parents have been my rock throughout this entire ordeal. They've helped with childcare, supported me emotionally, and even assisted with some of the legal fees. I don't know what I would have done without them. As I look towards the future, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life and creating a stable, loving environment for Sophie. It's going to be challenging, but I'm determined to move forward without David and Jessica's toxic influence. I'm learning to trust myself again and recognize my own strength. This experience has been incredibly painful, but I'm hopeful that Sophie and I will come out stronger on the other side.